Hello and welcome to Web of Light. I'm Dr. Kevin and I'm here with my co-host Angie D'Anjou. First of all, we want to welcome you to Web of Light. If you are new to our viewer audience, please let us know. Send an email to either Angie@weboflight.com or to Dr. Kevin, D-R-K-E-V-I-N @weboflight.com. We know that we are now being carried from Maine to California at a number of different public access channels, but sometimes we don't always get notified. So if you are watching us or via our internet YouTube channel, either way, let us know that you've joined our audience, and we would really enjoy hearing from you. Any requests you have, any questions you have to come and participate. So that being said, again, welcome to Web of Light, where we're weaving a web of light. As those of you know who have been following us, we recently just wrapped up the Web of Light Expo. So far, we've heard this month from our Web of Light astrologer, Dorothy Morgan, about the time of Gemini. She was also here to talk about some of the fun and interesting things that happened at the Expo. Today's show, Angie and I are actually going to be sharing one of the talks, the talk that her and I did together.
Yeah.
And the talk that we did at the Expo was how to find a spiritual teacher and to build a spiritual business. We're going to actually just let you pull up a chair and enjoy watching as we talk to a room full of people about how to choose the best spiritual teacher and how to either launch or expand and grow their spiritual business. Angie, why did you feel this talk was important?
Well, it's important because a lot of people that are in the area are getting a lot of people who are bringing them the wrong information or telling them they could do something like right overnight. And this was something to give you a little bit more information, allowing people to understand that it takes a little bit. It is a business or it is a function that you're doing. And you don't just take it lightly. You really need to look at some of the very important factors in regards to this. Protection methods, different ways of bringing yourself to be known with the public. Things of that nature. And you know, it's just something good that we want to share, and we want to make sure that people are on the right page so that when people come to you, they can expect the quality that they really deserve.
Oftentimes, I mean, it was important for me that we did this talk, and it was important because, first of all, oftentimes people who are seeking a spiritual teacher either have had recently a trauma in their life, a major upheaval, they feel like maybe their traditional religion or their traditional belief systems and ideologies have been turned upside down. It's a very vulnerable time. It's a transition time. And when somebody is looking, you know, maybe it's the sudden death of a spouse or a parent or a child. Maybe it's, you know, the latest, you know, expose, you know, on your religion or something that has shaken you to a core to want to go out there. And so it's important, first of all, that these people don't get taken advantage of by what I call the snake oil salesman. And as the new age metaphysical alternative health and wellness industry has grown into billions of dollars of revenue, lots of people have come in, and they've come in to take advantage of people who are vulnerable. So that was the first reason I wanted to do the talk. The second reason is I see a lot of very gifted people. Now, I've been in practice full-time for 27 years now, and I have seen a lot of vulnerable people, a lot of be taken advantage of. They've come to me, I've cleaned up a lot of messes, as I know you have. But also, I've seen a lot of very talented people that couldn't really get that a spiritual business is both a business and a melding of your spiritual path. And because of that, they may have great talents or gifts to serve humanity with, but you know, they end up back at a 9 to 5, 9 months after they start. They don't know really how to pull it together, how to be abundant in it. And it's so important that we as spiritual teachers and healers, role model that you can be joyful and abundant in this world, living and sharing your gifts, your talents, and your passions. With that being said, we are now going to cut to the talk. You're going to get a chance to actually pull up a chair, be in our classroom, and then we'll come back once you've done. Enjoy our talk.
Welcome, everyone. I know you've been, I've taken informally chatting till I got back, or did you start the class without me?
No, we didn't start the class without you.
Oh,
We've
too
been
bad.
formally,
I
I gave them, they asked me when and how we decided to do this event and how I gave them the feedback that you had done the events in the past. I've been doing mine in this area since 2000, and we'll catch him up, okay? And this was like he came back in the area, and all of a sudden we're doing the Web of Light show. We're opening up the center under the Web of Light. That's at my location. My location is in Hudson, and it's now become the Web of Light downstairs. I used to have a space for quite a few years. I just shut it down. Broke my foot. That's why you see me kind of dorky. But now
I thought the dorky came natural.
I know. Well, maybe, but anyway, now that the foot's getting a little better, he came in and he was like, "No, we're not stopping this. We're making it bigger." So here we go.
Yeah,
I walked our next journey.
I walked into her house because Angie and I go way back, and announced that I was moving back here from Phoenix. And then shortly after that, got engaged, and I'm getting married this year. One of the impetus of why I'm here. Angie was like, "Yeah, I'm pulling back. I'm going into semi-retirement. I'm doing this." And I was like, went to one event. I'm not mentioning any names, and anything I do, there are no names mentioned. I went to one event, and I went back to Angie and I said, "Do you know what they're putting out there for events now? I have never seen such a lack of integrity at a spiritual event." And then I went out and I actually did a second event. I think you and I were at we were at one of the events together, right? And she's like, "I'm cutting back. I'm just doing a couple of little shows and stuff like this." And then I started hearing people sitting across from me, because I'd been gone for a while. And I heard people sitting across from me going, about that this spiritual teacher, who wasn't even on the radar when I'd left 5.5 years earlier, and some of the things that were being said. And I'm like, really? Really? So this one person out of 7.4 billion people is the only person that has the only way to be spiritual. And you have to do it exactly like them or you get yelled at. Then I went back to Angie and I kind of sort of put it like this. I go away for 5 years. I come back to this mess. This happened on your watch. You're getting your butt out of that chair. There is no semi-retirement, and I'm dragging you back out. And we're gonna be out there and show people what a spiritual teacher, a spiritual business, a good spiritual event looks like. And there are more seekers out there than there ever been that have lost faith in their government, in their church. They've lost faith in their community at times, or their AMA, the medical. People are out there searching. And like I put in when I did the write-up, wherever there's money to be made, there are snake oils there willing to take it.
Yeah.
Snake oil salesmen. So as we want to talk first in the first part of this presentation about how to choose a spiritual teacher, I always like to do something before I start any of my classes. And then Angie and I are each going to take a couple minutes, we'll keep it short, to tell you a little bit of our spiritual history, because I think it's important. I think it's important that you have a good idea of who we are and how we came to be where we are now. I always say if you wanted to go out and find that you had a very expensive dog and you wanted to become a show dog with it, and you went to a groomer that grooms show dogs, and you go, "So how many show dogs have you groomed?" And they go, "None." "Where did you learn grooming?" "A YouTube video." Is that who you want to trust? I wouldn't want to trust my dog to that. Oh, that's right, I don't have a dog. Maybe that's why. I trusted it to one and it never came back. Just joking. You have to have a sense of humor for this class, by the way. But one of the things I like to let everybody know is right up front, and then I'm going to turn it to Angie to talk about her spiritual history a little bit, is God, Goddess, Allah, Buddha, Creator, Great Spirit, Universe, the Great Pumpkin. I don't care what you call it. We all have a personal relationship with something. And whatever your interpersonal relationship is to a higher being, when we use whatever word we use, that's what we're referring to. And also, that I'm sharing and Angie's sharing our journeys, our spiritual insights, are the things that we know that have happened along the way, things we've seen and experienced. And some of it will resonate to you. Take it, go out, share it, attach our name to it, hopefully, but you may not. The other thing is that some of it is not going to resonate to you. And you're going to go, that doesn't call to me. That's okay. We're all on a unique spiritual path, so not everything I say or everything Angie says is going to call to you. And that's okay too. Doesn't mean you're wrong, doesn't mean we're wrong. It means we're having separate experiences. And we can learn from each other's separate experiences. Now, if either one of us say something and it makes you hopping mad and you want to stomp your feet and yell at us, somebody was yelling at me yesterday. And then I say, you need to look at it. Because a teacher in a lesson has just showed up at your door. Something you need to look at and be able to work with, because it's there to make you grow. Because if something makes you that angry, there's a truth in it you don't want to see. So I like to start with that with everybody. I have a very strong feeling of I don't ever want anybody that I work with, one-on-one or mentor or anything, to ever put me on an altar. And there's a reason for that. I've had people try to put me on altars through the years. And every time somebody puts me on an altar, somebody lights a candle and my ass gets burned.
You have scars.
Because nobody's supposed to be on an altar. So, Angie, you want to start by sharing a little bit of your spiritual journey of how you became a spiritual business owner and teacher, and I'm going to do the same, and then we're going to...
Well, I'm going to start by saying that what he's pretty much saying is true of anybody that's in that true spiritual path. Okay, even though we do have businesses in our spiritual path, we honor the fact that we are not the one that creates the person that we're training. We are the one that is the facilitator of what they extend themselves out to be, each individual. So yes, it is nice to have somebody say, oh, you know what, somebody just said that Angie was her own mentor and they got so much out of it. It is rewarding. It's a good, rewarding feeling inside. But if somebody comes up to me and started to say, oh, I can't do this unless I do it your way, or I haven't been able to do this, you need to show me your exact way, the last thing I do is show them my exact way, because everybody has their individual aspect of their spiritual realm, and they need to bring that out, because that's what's really important, and that's what makes us each that individual spiritual character.
What she shows them is the door, because that's the sign of codependency.
Yeah. So it's like we started this conversation when I just walked into this room. You had asked me about choosing readers, and I pretty much started with that same feeling. How do you choose a stone? What do you resonate to? That's how you choose your reader. With your spiritual teachers, it's the same deal. So myself, I'm a mother. I have 3 children. I have a beautiful husband. Do we have, and this is part of me. So yes, I am a regular mother. I have dirty floors to clean. I'm no different than the typical human being. I get out of bed the same way as everybody else. And everyone has their own life path. My life path actually included being able to acknowledge angels when I was at a very young age. However, I also was brought up as a Catholic. And so a lot of that was like, what are you talking about? No, you can't talk about that. We don't talk about that. And, so it was kind of like just melded down. And so I kept it within myself. I found my own peace with my guides. I knew things, but I let it be. And as I got older, I started to investigate them because things started to erupt around me. And so in my teens, I actually was blessed to have a beautiful person that was my mentor. And it was a one-on-one relationship with somebody that was just in my community, and And they showed me the positive piece of this, because a lot of it is, when you're younger, it's very, oh, what is that? What's that shadow that I just saw? Or what, So it was like a training of somebody, and I was fortunate because I met a mentor who, as I do now, and I honor that, bring the positive to the people. Let them know that they are aware of their positive and that they don't have to play with the negative of the spiritual world. They can move on and create the abundance that they truly want, and do it in a positive way. So, that was my beginning. And then as I grew and started to have my children, I actually was in corporate world. Everyone, and that was the thing to do. That's where I was. So I come with a background of working as a supervisor, working as a waitress, working as, all kinds of different pieces of that nature, working in an administrative. Okay. Part of my work at that time was creating events for the corporations. All right. And then as I moved forward, I ended up getting the spiritual calling that was really blunt and in my face. And as soon as I ignored it, I was like, no, I gotta keep that separate. And the next thing I know, the company that I was with and loved decided that they were going to be moving to New Jersey, and did I want to join them? So with that coincidence, I went, no, I don't really want to venture down to New Jersey to keep my position. So now I got to figure out what to do, because now I have 2 little ones at home. And okay, so the equation is, I'm not going to be an administrative. I'll have to start someplace in another realm with different pricing. So do I want to be home? And it all started to mold to the point where I was sent people to take care of, and I started caring for people. That was the first page. Second page was my abilities started really opening up more fully, because they were awake again, because I wasn't in corporate world anymore. So I had the time to sit there and be in that piece. And as I went through the next few years with my children, I developed by 1999, I actually went in to do my Reiki training. I went in to go back into my meditations. I work with inspirational meditations. I hadn't done those since I was 16, but I opened up, brought the spirit in, started the meditations. From there, I started to say, okay, so I'm on this roll, what do I do with it? And I said, oh, I'm crazy. I'm working a little job here and I'm working a little job there between the kids. Now it's time for me I have the children. I'm enjoying the ability to bring them up on as a mother. And then all of a sudden I said, what's wrong with opening up a spiritual business? Nothing anymore. And it was created, but it was a walking block, and then it expanded. 2 years into the business, by about 2001, I started to see, and it's kind of funny because this is a refocus of what we're doing now, because at that time I started to see in 2001 that a lot of these places that were calling themselves holistic expos, again, were like, are you kidding me? What are they trying to show these people? And that was my reason for opening up my expos, to bring the true people, not the higher ups that thought that they were, look at me, I'm the only way to do it, but the ones, and you'll see them in here today, as you did back in 2001, the ones that are truly in their spiritual mode of opening up and bringing people together and doing their work through spirit, and yet still bringing in the monies that they need to survive on their earthly journey. And as I did that, I started attracting all these different people that were like in the murk. Those that like, well, I don't know if I should step into that, but you're beautiful and you've got this beautiful energy. Don't worry, just keep following your path and it'll follow you, it'll come in. And then that's where I am. So I've done this for the last 9 years, along with my spiritual consultations and past life regressions and Reiki and all that I do. So I do classes, workshops, treatment sessions, home parties, and then of course on the sidelines I've been doing the events. And that is by bringing in more people that are transpiring into beautiful spiritual people. And so that's my journey. And now I'm here, and of course you heard the last piece of it. So the door turns again, and here we go again.
And she gets shoved out of it with me pushing her behind. So the expo business didn't start until 2000.
2000, 2001.
Okay, honey, you said 9 years. It's 2017.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
16 years.
We lose track. Okay?
Math was not her subject in school. I just wanted to point that out. Because I'm going, I've been talking about, she's been doing these expos for over 15 years. She's saying 9. Am I lying, or has she just gone ditzy on me? Oh, sorry. So I want to point a couple of things out. And one of the ways, and we're here to talk to you about how to pick a spiritual teacher. And teachers teach in different ways. And that's because people learn in different ways. Some people are more kinesthetic, some people more audio, some people are more visual, some people need it in a very analytic way. My primary way that I most love to teach is through story and example, and then how that applies to you. I can teach in the other ways because after creating a hands-on healing system and then all the work I've done with ADD and ADHD, if any of you are unaware of that, I have several books on ADD, ADHD on the market, and have been working with those gifted individuals since the late 90s as part of my spiritual business. That I definitely, as a teacher, assess how you best learn with interacting with you, and we'll adjust. But up front, I'm a storyteller. I love to tell a story, and I love to help you apply it into your life of what it means to you and how it plays out with you and in your life. You noticed that Angie had managerial experience. She worked in a number of different industries, which was not completely clear, but so she got to work with different kind of thinkers and groups of people and stuff like that. And she worked in corporate events. So Spirit the whole time was shepherding her, knowing where she was going to end up, and put her in positions and opportunities that, sometimes people come to me and they'll go, oh, I just wasted the last 20 years of my life. And I go, only if you think so.
Yeah.
Nobody wastes 20 years of their life. They can waste time saying they've wasted 20 years of their life instead of figuring out why they had to have those 20 years. But I've not met anybody that's ever sat across from me who we couldn't figure out why their journey was what it was. Does free will take us on a few detours? Sometimes do we take the long way home?
Yeah.
Take the long way home. Okay. Yeah, absolutely we do. And that's okay too. I got lost the other day, driving to some place I've driven 100 times. But in my mind, I just had a lot of stuff going on in my head and stuff like this. And I look and I went, I'm 3X's past where I want to go. So I have to go a back route I've never been on. I went through some of those beautiful backwoods Maine place. I drove over this bridge that had water and lakes and islands on both sides. I was like, oh, this is just peaceful and calm. And, oh, my soul needed this. I didn't get lost. I got redirected into something that I needed because I was headed to some client's house. And I arrived in this great, non-stressed, calm, everything's perfect. Mm-hmm. And I'm human, just like Angie. So yeah, I get stressed, I have anxiety, it's part of the job. It comes with it. If you don't think I haven't had a stressful moment or two in this expo in the last 2 days, you weren't paying attention the last hour. But my job as a spiritual teacher and some would say leader, and I'm okay with that. I go back and forth with that kind of thing. It was my job to set the energy. How many of you heard me out there talking about, when we go back in and this is what we're going to do and stuff like this? Okay? Because there were people there that were thinking. I could hear them. They think loudly. Oh, great, and now this is off, and all they could focus on was the problems and the blah and the blah. And Anna, who was wonderful, the events person on the floor with us, we love her. And she was like, yeah, and at least it's a great day out, and enjoy the sunshine, and enjoy the air, and, the world gives you mud, make mud pies. Sell them on street corners. It's okay. So my grandmother first talked to me about my spiritualities when I was 4. I went to my grandmother. She was taking care of me. I asked to play a game. I told her what she looked like when she was my age, how she wore her hair, sang her the song that her and her best friend used to sing together, and told her best friend's name. And it was all true. She sat down and she said, Kevin, you have a gift, and it's a gift from God. People will tell you that it's bad or that it's wrong or that they don't believe you, but as long as you know it's a gift from God, everything will be okay. Now, I know you heard part of this yesterday. You were in my class, so just try not to fall asleep on me. And, you know, and then she wanted to make sure that I remembered, because I was like, you know, 4, I was probably like 3 months short of 5, whatever. But so she put it in my mind that what I did was a really special thing. And so she rewarded me for it. I got not 1, but 2 hot homemade chocolate donuts and my own plate of sugar. And if you want a little 4-year-old to remember that they did something good, that's a great way to do it. I have very fond memories of those donuts, one's here and one's here. I've kept them all these years. So I stumbled through all of my childhood having tons and tons of spiritual experiences. My grandmother died when I was 8. She came to the edge of my bed, said I still needed her. She hadn't gone anywhere. My mother comes in the next day crying, your grandmother died last night. I go, hey, what's for breakfast? And she thinks I don't understand Dad. And I remember laying in that bed thinking, Mommy doesn't get it. Grammy hasn't gone anywhere. She's still here. So taking that in, I ended up, no accidents, growing up in a house that was haunted. Got a very good relationship going with the ghost for several years in my childhood. Went back as an adult and cleared her, moved her on to her soul journey. But as a kid, I had no concept of how to do that. And just kind of was stumbling. But I was like this little waiting to explode nuclear bomb psychic kid. And I was highly psychic, highly creative, ADHD. And by the time I hit teenage years, I knew what people thought was normal was I kind of like fell in love with anyone, and gender was like really irrelevant to me. So I was a sore spot waiting to happen. I was going to irritate every traditional community out there. I will be 57 in July. And let me tell you, in the late 60s and the early 70s, you know, like really openly gay, bisexual, highly creative, ADD, that it didn't have the label back then, psychics that just went blah and spit psychic information over you were not popular, especially among adults. I always say the only reason I got through my childhood without ending up in the mental institution was I ran faster than the men in white coats. Because I kept on having people tell me things were wrong. You know, you shouldn't be that way. You know, no one makes a living as a creative. You know, like, you know, when are you going to do something serious with your life? That one's still waiting to be fulfilled. I played it serious. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be. So the next big thing for me was actually when I was 15, I went to work at a bank. I had a woman who was one of my early mentors. She was the secretary to the vice president. And she just got fascinated with me. And she asked me information about when I was born and blah, 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 blah. I didn't know what astrology was at that point. She looked at my palm and did all this and all that. And she said that she made this declaration. She said to me, and I'm 15 years old, working at a bank, going to school, getting engaged in my first serious relationship, actually with a woman who was 5 years older than me for 3 years. And she goes, "You're here to be a worldwide spiritual leader, and I want to be known as one of the first people that worked with you." Well, those kind of interesting words. Her name was Fran Bolduc. In fact, I dedicated one of my books to her. And I thought, stoned, crucified, drowned, murdered. Yeah, I think I'd rather just be like the president of a bank. But thanks, I'll pass. I mean, it wasn't very attractive. And then, interestingly, through her, I went to a spiritual metaphysical group on a weekly basis. We discovered that I wasn't very good at doing what I was told, because every week she gave me a book to look at so I could talk about the next week's thing. Every week I didn't read the book because I had a girlfriend and I had a job and I had homework and I had school and it all came to a head one week because she never knew I wasn't reading the book, because every time they started talking about it, I started saying things. Then this little spiritual group that were all 2 to 3 times older than I was, that were fascinating because I just opened my mouth and would come out. And then we did Edgar Cayce. How many people are familiar with Edgar Cayce here? Great spiritual leader. If you haven't looked into his stuff, you should really do it. And one of the things that happened was that we were talking about Atlantis. People heard about Atlantis? Atlantis, Lemuria, stuff like that. And we were talking about Atlantis, and I closed my eyes and I started describing it and I started talking about it. And I probably talked 15, 20 minutes with my eyes closed, tears rolling down my face and out my eyes. And I said, what's Atlantis? She said, didn't you read the book? What's Atlantis? Didn't you read the have you read any of the books? And that's when I got my first metaphysical nickname. You little shit. You haven't read any of them. And that's when I got compared to Edgar Cayce, because he used to sleep with a book beside his bed and he didn't know what was in it. I share that because we all have a spiritual journey if we would think about it in those terms. As you are looking for a spiritual teacher, as you are looking to move forward, become familiar with the spiritual journey you took. Maybe you were like Angie and you went to a Catholic church, but in that Catholic church, you knew that some of the things felt really good, but some of the things didn't. Or something wasn't off, or it wasn't the right place for you. There was something there for you, but it was for a drive-by quick pickup. I kind of look at a lot of the organized religions as like, drive through McDonald's. You get something quick and take it out, and it's not really nutritious, and it doesn't last a long time, but you eat it and run. And so I had the same mentor. We didn't know each other at the time. It only came out in the last, year that we had the same mentor.
Yeah.
All the time we knew each other. The same lady, Ramona Garcia, which some of you may have heard of. She recently passed. She was one of Angie's big first mentors. And at 16, I was suddenly part of her New England Traveling Psychics, doing psychic readings across the table in a mall, getting money for whatever fell out of my mouth, and having people like completely ecstatically happy with it. And so you could say I started my first spiritual business in 1976, I guess. But from that, and there's two other things I want to know, and I know we want to get into more of the meat of the class here, but again, I teach through story. One of the first things was that at that time, this is exactly what I did, is when somebody come to me to do a ghost clearing, to do a hands-on healing, to get information about their astrology chart. By that point, I had started studying with an astrologer named Joanne Aldridge, who came over from England and had been doing astrology for 50 years at that point. And I had some very powerful, all women, spiritual people, spiritual teachers, though they wouldn't have called themselves that most of the time. I don't think Ramona called herself she didn't call herself a spiritual teacher back then. I don't know if she did later, but not a term they would use. First of all, when a woman says, when a woman is a spiritual teacher, the other word for her is what? Witch. Yeah. Sometimes they pronounce it with a B. Yeah, there is cold water in the back of the room. For those that are warm like I am, please feel free to get up and get a glass of cold water. I know you're loving the sun. It's a little warm for me.
Would you like some water?
Yes, would you mind? That would be lovely. So, see, that's called manifestation. And so when people would come to me, I would close my eyes and I would do this.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Can I do this? And you can't tell with my eyes closed. Thank you so much. But literally my eyes roll up in the back of my head and I go, can I do this? And I'd hear yes. Now, I was not raised Christian. I was not raised in a traditional household. The closest thing we got was I was raised Unitarian Universalist. Okay, great religion, still involved with it. If you as far as religions go, that's the one that works for me. That's considered more traditional. Wasn't raised with the Bible, any of that stuff. I mean, one flew by every now and then because it belonged to great grandma, grandpa, somebody. But that was it. And so I would just go up and go, can I do this? I'd hear yes, and then I would say, do you want me to do this? That was it. When I was 16, 17, 18, 19, I did my first ghost clearing. I did my first hands-on healing with a woman who had a tumor that somehow, after 24 x-rays of showing it, it disappeared, and they don't know how. The first 24 x-rays must have been wrong. They were all bad files, all taken at different days. But that disappeared because she came to me and said, and interesting, she was a practicing witch. I mean, I forgot that fact. But she came to me and she asked me, she knew that she could ask, she was like, I think you can, I was like, can I? Should I? I said, okay, I'll do it. That was it. It was so simple back then. Now, I teach people to be better protected than that. I got in some trouble in my early 20s, my late teens. I did go to college to get a degree in business because my mother really wanted me to be a real person. Anybody out there have a parent that wanted them to be a real person? That was the story of my life. But I got my first degrees in business. I spent 12 years in the corporate world. I worked in almost every major industry. My last job was as a sales training manager for American Express. I, at one point, was managing 110 employees in a food and beverage situation. So I did all of these different things. I was teaching a communication class for American Express in the 80s, the art of communicating to the salespeople, okay, which became one of my spiritual classes. And so, again, the journey. So I'm giving you homework. This young lady knows. I can't remember who else was in my talk yesterday. Were you there as well? Sorry. But I'm giving you homework because that's what I do. You want to move forward in your life, do homework. So I want everybody here, and you guys got homework yesterday. I expect it by the end of the day, in writing, triplicate, spell checked. But I want you to go, and I want you to do a timeline of all of the skills you've developed and the talents you've developed and the gifts you came in with that are here to be part of your spiritual business, your spiritual path. I want you to look it down and write it. This job, what stands out that I learned in this job that would help me have a spiritual business today? Or be a better spiritual person, you know? And then look at your employment history and then look at your personal history and do the same thing. So what did the first marriage teach me? What did the second marriage teach me? What did the third marriage teach me? When you get to the fifth marriage, I know I'm channeling Elizabeth Taylor. Well, you do look a little bit like Liz Taylor. And put that together. In 1990, I left the corporate world. I got a very clear message, and I started my first spiritual business, full-time, out in the world. And at that point, starting a spiritual business, again, I was in Portsmouth. I moved back to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, because I got the message to go back to my roots, and that's the area I grew up in. I grew up in Kittery, Maine. Went back there, started my first spiritual business. There weren't a lot of spiritual businesses in 1990. There were some, here and there that flirted with the edges, but nobody that was putting out that they were a spiritual business, so to speak. And I connected with all the spiritual people that remembered me before I moved away, and friendships I had, and I heard the same thing almost without exception from everyone. Nobody makes a living as a spiritual healer. If you don't have a spouse, if you don't have a second income, if you're not independently wealthy, you struggle, nobody makes a living doing a spiritual business. And I hear people say that today. So this is what I did. And you get to find your version of that. My version of that was, because I got very clear messages, to leave a job with a secretary and a car phone that was like this, that you had to actually take in and out of the car. So I had a secretary. I had an office on the 12th floor of a 15-floor building and offices, and I had staff, and I had all of this stuff, and I walked away from all of it because God told me to do so. And I started a spiritual business, sitting in a little shop called the Mustard Seed in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, doing psychic readings, because I knew I could do that, and that the rest of it would unfold. But when people said to me, nobody makes a living as a healer, I went, you, God. I tell you what, when God lets me down, I'll come back and see what you think. And that's what you have to do sometimes. You have to have faith. These ladies can tell you all about faith. They were in my talk yesterday. You have to have faith. You have to have trust. And when you know that you're having a calling, you have to listen. Because guess what? The voice only gets louder. Okay. Goes from cleaning out your ears to blowing out your brains. Because when you're called, you have to answer sooner or later, or have a miserable existence in resistance. Why would you do that? Why are you attached to having a miserable existence and being self-abusive? Why? Why would you do it? So I started my business 27 years ago. I still do some business consulting sometimes, but I do it from a spiritual perspective. I teach an MBA level course for entrepreneurs and have off and on for 13 years now. Sometimes I'm teaching there 5 times a year. And I will sit in a room with 250 business owners in suits and ties back when I first started doing it. And they will say, and somebody will inevitably ask the question as I'm talking about different things and talking about it's not just the visible, but the invisible. It's not just what you see. It's not just the bottom line on the accounting sheet. It's the invisible as well. Somebody will say, well, what does it take to work with you, Dr. Kevin? I said, well, when I work with a business owner, the first thing I do is we sit down and we figure out what the vision and mission statement for their soul is. Because when I figure out with you, and you and I do this joint journey, the vision and mission statement of your soul, then whatever business we build that is in harmony with that vision and mission statement cannot fail. You will be successful. You may have to release what successful things, what some fear-mongering upbringing thing of successful is. And the first, can anybody here tell me, I like audience engagement, can anybody here tell me what is the first #1 criteria of what tells you that you are absolutely doing the right thing?
Feels right. How you feel.
Joy. Joy is good. I mean, you know, my word is joy. Joy. Passion. People say to me, what do you do for work? It's like, I don't do work, I do joy. I get up every day and I get to be me and I get paid for it. Does that mean I don't have some frustrations? Does that mean that the person that set the fire alarm off, I might not have wanted to share a marshmallow with them on the inside of the fire for just a moment? Because I'm human and it's okay. So for 27 years now, I've been building businesses that aren't spiritual and bringing spirituality into them by saying you have to see yourself as a spiritual person first. And then we build the business to support you. Building spiritual businesses and working with individuals to get better on their spiritual path. I am now going to pass it back to Angie to talk about to talk about a spiritual teacher, what to look for and what to be aware of to choose a good spiritual teacher for your path. Any questions so far for Angie or I? Because we've been talking a lot. Good, we like to talk a lot. Oh, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I don't know.
I'd actually like to know what you think is the #1 criteria for opening a spiritual business.
The #1 criteria for opening up a spiritual business.
To make it successful.
You have to really be a part of it. It's in your heart. I didn't sit there and say, oh, I'm going to open this up because I'm going to make all kinds of money at it. You know, you can make a lot of money with it, but it's in your heart. You're opening up. The #1 criteria is I enjoy doing this, and I'm going to be a part of it. I'm going to help serve the people. I'm going to help serve me. I'm done with people trying to have me serve everything in corporate. When I was in corporate, my #1 criteria was, let's see, do I move to New Jersey? Do I take something out of the city? Or do I stay home and embellish this center that I have and be with my children and love what I'm doing? That's your #1 criteria. As soon as you make it over that threshold and realize that somebody doesn't have to pull your strings, which means you have to love yourself first before you can do this, boom. You just say it and it comes.
I have a problem asking people for money.
Okay, well,
Oh.
we'll talk
Get
about
that
that.
into that in a minute.
I do want to answer the question. To me, the first criteria, and it's not all that dissimilar, and this is the first time Angie and I have ever taught this workshop together, so we're hearing some answers and stuff about each other we weren't even aware of.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but to me, the first criteria is a willingness to do the work on yourself. We do have an upcoming mentorship program we're going to do for 18 months with people that want to build a spiritual business or expand their spiritual business. But part of that course is it's a course in self-mastery and developing yourself as a spiritual being.
Yeah.
And if you are, I see talented and passionate people that go out there and their shingle is up and down in 3 months.
Yeah.
And I see people that sit there and think, oh, well, I'm doing God's work, so I'm just going to sit here and the people will show up because I'm doing God's work. And God's saying, do your own work first, then the people come. So it's got to be one of both. I used to teach, I became a Reiki master in 1994, I think it was. And there was a brief period where I was teaching Reiki and Reiki mastership. And the Reiki mastership for me was a 2 to 2.5 day weekend one-on-one of becoming a master, a spiritual master within your life, and a couple of hours of teaching you what Reiki mastership really needed to teach you.
Yeah.
The technicals were this, the processing was this. And I have been called the psychic sledgehammer by a reporter.
Meaning?
That I just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
I've been referred to as being the most practical, pragmatic, spiritual person you'll ever meet. The psychic sledgehammer. People are warned. People are warned. I just did a psychic fair a week and a half ago at Leaping Lizards, where I do work, actually monthly, and they all know me. And when people sign up, they say, "Now you do know he is going to tell you the truth, right?" I mean, I'm not saying I can't be gentle and loving, and I will always start with gentle and loving, but I will ramp the volume up. And I will throw people out of sessions and mentorship with me if they're not willing to do the work.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem. Honey, you can't pay me enough to try to do your work for you. You can pay me to help you do your work. I will give you the tools. I will help you develop the skill set. I will hug you when you cry. I will hold your hand when you are lost. But you better be working every bit as hard as I am, or I'm going to be behind you kicking your ass either out the door or into doing your work. There's only 2 directions. And what you talk about is a common block, and we're going to finish it up,
Yeah.
but is a common block, and you will never have a successful spiritual business until you get rid of it.
Yeah.
So whether you do work with Angie or me or somebody else, I never say I'm the only person that does the work. Don't even think about doing a spiritual business until you've done a couple of sessions with somebody that you're drawn to that can help you get rid of that block.
Yeah.
And I've thrown students out of my program and made them do work privately to get rid of the block before I would let them get back in. Sometimes they did it with me, sometimes they didn't. I don't care. But that block has to go away. You are a divine being of light. You are a soul trying to bring light to the world, and you deserve to live in an endless abundance that role models to the world that following a spiritual path, not doing drugs, beating your wife, and because you can throw a ball or bounce a ball or hit a ball and make millions of dollars and, abuse people and do drugs and be the worst role model in the world. We need role models in the world that says, I'm out there being a light. I am helping people to become who they're here to be. I am lightening the energy of the planet. I am bringing light into darkness, and I am setting up so many matches that we will change this planet into a lighter, higher vibration thing. And I deserve to be a billionaire doing it, because people that see the billionaires are the ones that are, raping our resources, abusing things, think they can dominate anybody that doesn't agree with them, can pull all sorts of crap, and our world says, and they get rewarded. Mm-hmm. So how do we tell these children coming in behind us, your child, your grandchild, some little child is going to look up and say, Mommy, Grammy, so if I do spiritual work, do I have to be poor? Do I have to struggle? Do I have to work at McDonald's 50 hours a week so I can do healing? Is that what I have to do, Grammy? Is that what life is about? I can only suffer if I help people? First year I was in business in Portsmouth, I started with a new business partner, and she's going to be here this summer. She's coming into town for my wedding, and we're going to be teaching this weekend. But when we first started, we sat at her table and we were doing a visioning session, her and I, as business partners. And I said, within a year, I want an office in downtown Portsmouth, not cheap. I want a secretary, and I want a professional office space where people come in and they're greeted and they wait. She goes, well, that sounds good. I'm all for it. And I said, but she's laughing at me. And I said, no, you don't get it. I am not a flashing neon palm. I am not wearing a turban on my head. I'm not going to do $10 readings and sell you $1,000 candles to get rid of the black energy afterwards. Okay? I am a professional running a professional business in a professional office space. And 9 months later, we were signing a lease on 1 Middle Street in downtown Portsmouth with a secretary, with a waiting area. They got greeted. That office space had lawyers and accountants and engineers in it, and a spiritual catalyst. So talk about, I'm sorry, go ahead, can you tell I get ramped up on this?
Can we go back to
Go ahead.
choosing a spiritual?
Yeah.
Teacher, yeah, that's what she's going to do right now.
Yeah, that's what we're getting back into.
Go ahead.
So when you're when you're teaching a spiritual teacher, okay, a lot of times you will actually meet up to that person through coincidence. I know that anyone that I've ever had as a mentor has been somebody that the coincidences went, I found them through this, I found them through that, and then all of a sudden they were there. And so I'm going to say to you, just because they're saying to you that, they got this almighty thing that they do, and they're the greatest, a lot of times when you see these that have their, names in gold and whatever, a lot of times it's not truly what you're feeling. And if you're approaching a person and you don't feel that connection, unless you want the experience of seeing what that person's doing, you can go ahead and take that. But if you don't feel that connection, you shouldn't be approaching that. It's just too much, because you're wasting your time. Oh, you need to have the connection with the person that's going to mentor you, because if you don't have the connection with the person that's going to mentor you, it's not going to be the same joyous ride. You're going to be beating yourself up and saying, well, I got to go. When you find yourself saying, I got to go to class again, I don't know if I can do this, there's something wrong with that picture. Because I know all the people that I've ever had come into my classrooms, they just can't wait for the next week, and they just can't wait for the next day, and they just can't wait for the next month. But it's not because I'm like the fabulous little sun in the sky. It's because they connect, they resonate with what's going on with that energy. So when you start to go to pick your spiritual teacher, you have to examine what you are, what your direction is. And again, that's putting time with you. What have I done? What do I enjoy? What am I trying to create for myself? Not somebody saying, oh, you've got to go take this Reiki session because I think it's the greatest thing for you. Oh, wait a minute. On the same time, let's go learn about pendulums because you got to do that too. Take some time. Research things. Nowadays, it's like you read it online. Before it used to be books. Now, online, you can get a lot of information. Some place like our expo is designed for people who are actually looking for their spiritual journey. There's so many different aspects out there, and I'm sure all of you who have gone through this today have seen that. There's sound healing, there's Reiki, there's readers, there's people who work with herbs, there's so much to it. It's just like a doctor or nurse. What type of nurse do I want to be? What type of doctor do I want to be? Do I want to specialize in certain things? When you find that truth within yourself, and then the only way you're going to find that truth within yourself is, Dr. Kevin said it before, put your timeline. What have I been doing? What are the lessons that I've been learning to bring myself to that manifestation? And now that I know and feel what's in me, I know what I'm searching for. So then I start to search in those paths, And as you do that, you're divine, as long as you give the opportunity. And don't try to do it for you. Say, okay, show me the next path, and follow those paths. And when you open the doors, you're going to start to see the people that belong in that space. Don't go doing a spiritual teacher just because it's the fad thing to do. Because a lot of time you're going to feel a little bit upset with yourself after the fact. Or you're going to be confused. And you don't want to get confused. So
There's a couple of different things with a spiritual teacher, and I get, I'll be honest, I get dinged sometimes because there's a whole spiritual thing about, don't say negative things. And frankly, I believe that you can say something that is your, where you are not judging somebody, but you are discerning what is right or wrong for you.
mm-hmm.
And when you become too politically correct, you do a disservice to yourself and the person who's trying to get an honest piece of information from you. So my things with the spiritual teacher, first of all, is create a checklist of what's important to you, of questions to ask. Create a list, interview a spiritual teacher. Angie and I have 3 sessions coming up, one in each of the following 3 months. It's free for people to come in for 90 minutes and talk about if they might want to be part of our mentorship program. And we're interviewing them and they're interviewing us.
Mm-hmm.
A spiritual teacher who will basically take anyone whose check cashes is showing no discernment and it is not representing you well. There were people that wanted to be at this expo and we didn't take their check for a vendor booth, and we had vendor space because we didn't feel like they were the right energy or they were the right integrity. That included readers, that included vendors. And I'm going to tell you, there are a few people here this weekend that have shown me that I will never have them at an expo again. And because they represent my integrity. And so you want to create a list of questions of what's important. Is it important that I do it on my own time, or do I need somebody that will crack the whip on me? You know what it is. If you know that if you get pushed too hard, you're going to just blow back and run away. So you may say, I have people that say, could I just meet with you once a month? Okay, that's your timeline. I don't create your timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You get to create your timeline. It's your life. If I think that your timeline is holding you back and you have a block, I'm going to go after that block, but then you change your timeline. I don't change your timeline.
Well, you're speaking of the timeline, and it's true. That's one of the things I want to say to people. You have to give yourselves that time to grow yourself. Because if you're not taking a little bit of time from your full day and putting it into the establishment of what you want to grow, you're not doing yourself any favors.
And the next thing is, you want to always find out how interactive is that spiritual teacher in your teaching. If you have a conversation with somebody like this at an expo, or you would take take some one-off classes. Angie and I both have a ton of classes coming up, and that, it's a one-night class. Come and see how we teach. You're seeing us here today.
Yeah.
Because when it's a pleasant, upbeat, fun experience, but you're getting the information, you remember it more. If it's like, do you feel judged?
Yeah.
There are many spiritual teachers practicing in this area right now that are very, very judgmental. They judge you as valuable where you are. They judge other people that are out there doing things in a way that you can tell that they are judgmental, and what they're saying is, I am the only spiritual teacher out there. Mine is the only way to learn. How long a commitment are they looking for? Can you just do a little dance and separate, and do a little dance and separate, and again do it on your own timing? Or are they looking for, in the fall, Angie's teaching, she's doing meditation,
I've been
empath.
doing meditation,
We're
empath,
about out of time. So
We're actually going to have a gathering. It'll be a monthly gathering for anybody who is an empath. So they're looking, and there's a lot of negativity around them. They'll have an opportunity to come in and be with other empaths to discuss things that they're experiencing, so that they have a place to let it all out. We're also going to have a once a week. These are mostly on Tuesdays, once a month, I should say. They come in to just practice, whether it be Reiki, whether it be readings, something that, you know, you're starting to open up in any type of mentoring or anything. You just want some practice with like-minded people. This is going to be another piece that's going to be being offered with me once a month.
Do you ever do anything on the weekends?
Oh yeah, we got a bunch of weekend stuff
We
too.
do, yeah.
Yeah, so take it.
Sometimes, you know, people work during
Mhm.
the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the stuff that I have scheduled is in the evenings or weekends.
I work till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that I have been talking about with some of the things. The meditations, actually, I do have are going to be in the morning and then in the evening, so people have that choice. But I do inspirational meditations. I'm going to be having classes on how to develop your meditation skills, classes on numerology, classes on tea leaf readings and symbols, things of that nature. I like the fun classes right now.
And
Is it on your website?
Pardon me?
yeah,
Where do I get the information?
you can pick up at
We
the info
actually have
booth.
a
We've got a
brochure at
printout
the
that you
info
can
booth.
have, and then the website. But I want to go back because we are going to have to wrap it up, and you know everything got a little off kilter with the fire stuff. But I do want to leave this without picking a spiritual teacher because I want to give you a couple more what I think are important points. With a spiritual teacher, you have to feel simpatico. Ask them how they see the world, who they are, and who have they taught. Talk to students that have taught with them and say, what kind of teacher is this? If you say, well, can you give me a couple of students that can talk to me? Then this is what you have to be aware of the students. Are the students real three-dimensional people giving you positive, negatives, and, you know, they're really good at this, but they're, you know, sometimes I've been told that sometimes when I'm in teaching mode, I like blast so much information that it makes my students' head explode. And they say, so if you're gonna work with Dr. Kevin, you have to say, okay, stop, exploding head. He'll get it. He'll stop. And he'll go, okay, so let's go back. What do you need? And I don't get irritated by it. But as long as somebody's getting it, I'm trying to give you as much information as I can, or as much experience as I can. So I'm there. I'm excited for you. I want to get you up to 90 miles an hour. But if you say, hey, I can only do 45, I go, okay, so here's the 45 version. But so this is a criticism that I get, and it's okay. I'm okay with that criticism. Can that spiritual teacher laugh at themselves? But when you talk to their spiritual students, are you talking to real people that are talking real experiences and pros and cons, and are they three-dimensional, or are you talking to hypnotized zealots that are going, oh my God, they're the most fabulous person in the world, and my whole life has changed, and it's never been better, and I deal so much better now that my husband's left me, and I'm homeless, and I'm living on welfare, but they're such a good spiritual person. Oh, how did that happen? I gave all my money to my spiritual teacher, but I'm happier now. So watch for zealot students, because if you have somebody that has a lot of zealot students, don't go there. Look for people that are real. They talk about real experiences.
Yeah.
My students are encouraged to criticize me, and they're encouraged to criticize me to my face, because I'll explain why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'll say, hey, that's great. I'm still learning. I'm not dead yet.
Yeah.
So we have
So
run out of time.
one of the most important things I always say to my students, and actually I call myself a facilitator because I want everybody to bring in their own piece, and one of the biggest things I always say to them is take what you need out of this and leave the rest behind if it doesn't resonate with you, because you can't be exactly like me, because that's not going to happen, and I wouldn't want that to happen. So if you have a person who's ready to get you on board and they want you to do everything explicitly the way A through Z that they want it, there's something wrong with that picture. Because you are your spiritual being, and just remembering that today would make me happy to know that you people know that.
Yeah, and again, in closing, you know, you want a spiritual teacher with a good sense of humor, one that you feel you can talk and be honest with. And how long have you been teaching? How many students have you had? I watched somebody, and it's happened to Angie, it's happened to me, but I watched somebody who came, took my psychic development class, literally 3 months later was offering my psychic development class and teaching it to people using my handouts that were copyright written. And I just saw somebody on Facebook who was crazed because somebody was taking their whole teaching book and teaching and charging people for it and undercutting the person who was teaching it. Now she needs to look at a whole buttload of things, the person who did that, because they gave it to the person because they felt sorry for them, so they gave them the classwork for free. So that's another discussion which we don't have time for. But so that's also a very important piece is, you know, how long have you been teaching? How long have you been doing that? So how many years have you been in spiritual business? Are you in spiritual business full time? Would you say your spiritual business is self-supporting? You know, as a, you know, if you're, and I'm now crossing over spiritual teacher and spiritual business here a little bit, but I say to somebody who has a spiritual business, and there are a few people out there that have recently put out classes saying, oh, well, I'll work with you on your spiritual business. And they're being supported by their spouse. Their spiritual business doesn't support them. How can you teach what you have not done? I mean, and it's not all about money, but you can't teach somebody to be self-sufficient, because it's like, personally, if I was a single mother with kids that was supporting them, and I went to somebody and said, you know, I want to learn how to do my spiritual business, and they were going to show me, and I found out that they can only afford their spiritual business because their husband is supporting them or their wife is supporting them, I'd be like, so do I get the wife or husband along with the class?
So, but the whole thing is that when you actually want, however, how much business you want out of your spiritual business, you can receive. It's just putting the effort into it to achieve it. And having people know that you show that honesty, you have that dignity of being a true spiritual catalyst, not somebody that's just trying to give you a few pointers and then just push you out. You know, if somebody's trying to get you to learn something in 1 hour, know that you have to be appreciated. So you have to give them your time, but at the same time, you have to be able to comprehend what they're doing. And if you're not, you know, stagnated with them, you're going to lose that comprehension. So those are, you know, there's so many pointers in that type that you need to really be aware of. But don't hold yourself back and say, I can only make this much out of this business, because that's not the truth. You open the door and you make what you make out of the business through the experience that you gain and through all of that you take in, and then use it and not say, well, I'm not as good as that. Everybody's on the same plane. You're as good as John Holland, you're as good as Von Prague. Everyone's at the same level. It doesn't matter. Yes, they have a book. No, you don't. But you can have a book. You can have what you want out of it. Do it.
Hey, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed our class. We did cut it a little short at the end. The class actually ran a little long, but you know, we wanted to protect people asking questions and things like this. So I know that you can appreciate that. And hopefully you have found something that helps you choose your next spiritual teacher, or helps you expand your spiritual path, or your spiritual business, or all three.
Yeah.
So now we want to take a minute and talk a little bit. Angie, we're starting a mentorship
Our mentorship masters.
program.
However, that's not going to start until, we decided it's not until about January.
We're going to start the actual program in January. It's going to be about 18 months long. You know, Angie has been running spiritual businesses since 2001. I mean, you know, she was in her own doing her own spiritual work before then, but that's really when you started as a spiritual business owner. I started in 1990. So we are going to be doing a mentorship mastery program that will run 18 months. Over the next few months, May, June, July, we may add some on. We are going to be inviting people to come to the Wolf Healing Center. When they come, it's going to be a joint interview process. You're going to be applying for the mentorship program and getting a chance to interview us to see if it's a good fit. We're only going to take 8 people into this program. 8 people, 18 months, to help you up your game as a spiritual practitioner, and also help you either launch or grow your spiritual business. So we look forward to being able to sit down in a very small group environment and jointly and individually work at touching you in your life.
Yes.
So one thing you're most looking forward to, and these again, it's not until January, but we're taking 7 months to interview people
Yeah.
to pick the right 8 people.
And in these interviews that we do, I'm hoping that people will come and check us out, come prepared with questions for us. Know that if you don't feel the energy, let us know. Same with us. We're going to be asking questions and giving thought to all types of questions that you might have. So it's a good opportunity for you to experience our energies, experience the energy that is in our center. And it's also a good time for you to acknowledge whether this is the path that you want to take or how intensely you want to get into this path.
Absolutely. That being said, we do want to give you a peek into what's coming up in June at the Wolf Healing Center. Speaking of a peek, the first thing
Yeah.
we're going to talk about is June 6th, a peek at numerology with Angie. You want to
Yeah.
share a little bit with people?
Yes, this is going to be an intro class. This will be something that will give you a chance to peek into the world of numerology. Of course, that is one of the workshops that I offer. I allow people, this is what I call the play version. We come together for a couple of hours. You learn what your life path is in numerology. You also learn how to apply yourself for your personal year and all the energy that's going to surround you in your numeric years. Numerology has been around for centuries. It's a method of looking and growing the energy that's surrounding you at certain times of each year, at certain moments of the year. So this is what I call the fun piece of it. And it's also an introduction so that in the future, if you want to embellish and learn the very unique pieces of numerology for yourself or to work with others, this is like the beginning step. So I'm hoping that people come in. Also know that this numerology is 16 and up. So if there's a teenager who is interested in learning this ability to work with numbers in a system, they're more than welcome to join the group. You're going to have a great time.
June 9th, we have a full moon drumming circle with Gathering in Spirits Jeff Beeland. It is open to the public.
Yeah.
You can find out more about it on weboflightexpo.org, or you can join our meetup group, Gathering in Spirit. We also have a Facebook page, but that is a closed group with invitation only. But you can reach out to either Jeff or I or Angie if you'd like to be invited into that group. We are going to be, that drum is going to be around a full moon in Sagittarius, and it's going to be about cosmic expansion. The expansion of your cosmic self will be the focus of that healing, that meditation, and then that drumming. June 13th, we're going to do Angie's going to be doing her Empath Monthly Support Group. She's talked to you about it before. I'm going to keep moving on. Do you have anything quick you'd like to say?
No, just come on down and release some of the pressures that you might be holding within.
Okay. And then on June 14th, I'm going to be doing Discovering and Living Your Soul's Path. We all came in with a unique soul's path. That path was set for us before we were ever born, and we've been getting tons of clues ever since. This comes out of my book, Combing the Mirror and Other Steps in Your Spiritual Path. So that's June 14th, if you would like to do that. June 16th, we have Reiki Master Jeff Beeland doing a Reiki share. It's not only a Reiki share, it includes a guided healing and meditation. June 19th, an intuitive practice group with Angie. Do you have anything quickly you'd like to say about that?
If anybody feels that they've had some intuitive experiences, they want to come down and practice a little bit or anything. It could be anything from holistic journeying with energy, or it could be something where you have dream recognitions. Come on down, join the group, talk and discuss some of the techniques that we use to increase abilities or to work with them, protection, all of that.
June 21st, there's going to be Journey to Health series by Marion Killenbeck, who is an NMD and RN. Making better nutritional choices. Again, she is doing a series of classes, but you can take them independently of the whole series. As a naturopath, she has a lot to bring to you to help you live a healthier and better life. On June 23rd, we have a new moon inspirational meditation with Angie. So we do the full moon, we do the new moon.
Yeah.
You have anything you want to say about
The
that?
new moon, notice, I want everybody to know that I am going to have a morning class workshop and also an evening. This is a chance for you to get yourself, release all the tensions, all the anxiety. Come in for my inspirational meditation, which brings you into knowing or feeling some embrace of something that you may be holding that you might want to release.
And then to close June out, June 28th, I'm teaching a spirituality and sexuality class. Oftentimes, sexuality has been demonized by the religious communities, any number of them. Of course, there are a few that are quite, baccalaurean, and they celebrate it. So in this class, we're going to be talking about the place where spirituality and sexuality come together and support and, as a part of you, help you grow and helps humanity grow and move forward. So with that being said, those are some of the upcoming things at the Wolf Healing Center. We want to thank you very much for tuning in. And again, if you're just joining us recently, please send us an email. Let us know that you're out there. If your public access channel has just started carrying us, we don't always get notified. Let us know. We would like to do that. We do also have coming up July 1st, Firefest in Pepperell, Mass. That is an all-day salute to all of the arts. It's going to be bands and performance arts and karate demonstrations and face painters and climbing walls and holistic arts and readers and vendors and all sorts of things, all outdoors to support Small Town Big Bang, which raises money every year for the town of Pepperell to be able to have fireworks so their kids can still go to the park and watch the fireworks. And then September 30th, October 1st, we will be having another Web of Light Expo, this time in Portsmouth, New Hampshire at the Great Bay Community College. We're taking over their whole student center, and we're going to rock the seacoast. Yes. Like we rocked Nashua, only without the fire alarm, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you very much for joining us. We are always looking to become more of who we are in some way. We're always searching out what are our new talents, what are our new gifts, what are our new skills. But oftentimes, we say we want it. We may even tentatively step toward it. But our overall action is to stay in that which is comfortable. Staying in that which is comfortable oftentimes means stagnating. Anything that stagnates long enough rots and smells. So all I can say is, here's an invitation to get some fresh air into your life. Namaste.